The mango trees stood still, but everything had changed. Grief clung to the air like mist, yet within Ada, something stirred. A quiet fire, a deeper strength. Her mother was gone. Her name was known, and her heart, still tethered to a man who left more questions than answers. Now, with an orchard to build, a legacy to protect, and love waiting between two worlds, Ada must rise. Welcome to Part 2 of Ada's Mangoes, where dreams deepen, choices sharpen, and a village girl dares to grow beyond the roots that raised her. The days after Mama's passing were filled with rituals, condolences, and a deep stillness in the house. Chike arrived in time for the burial, his presence quiet but steady. He helped serve food, dug with the village men, and never once left Ada's side. At night, he sat outside with her, both of them wrapped in silence. "She would have liked you," Ada said finally. Chike nodded. "I think she already did." After the funeral, he asked again, "Come back to Lagos with me. You don't have to stay forever, but maybe we can build something together." Ada stared into the horizon. The mango orchard swayed in the breeze. She thought of her mother's blessing, the life behind her, and the strange, bright life ahead. "Not yet," she said, "but I'm getting ready." 2 months later, Chike invited Ada to attend a charity gala in Lagos. His company was sponsoring a youth tech initiative. Ada hesitated, but agreed. She wore a simple but elegant Ankara gown and walked beside him into a ballroom of chandeliers and glittering dresses. The crowd parted as they entered, all eyes turning to the quiet girl with the mango-colored scarf. People whispered. Some recognized her from the articles, others from Chike's subtle introductions. "This is Ada," he'd say. "She grows the sweetest mangoes in Nigeria." Ada held her head high, smiling politely. But inside, she felt like a traveler far from home. As the night wore on, she saw the power Chike commanded, the respect he carried. And still, when he turned to her and whispered, "Are you all right?" she saw the boy who once stood in the rain, stranded and thankful. After the gala, a few powerful women in Chike's circle began circling like hawks. One, a polished lawyer named Tonya, approached Ada directly. "He's sweet, isn't he?" she said, sipping wine. "But these things, village flings, they pass." Ada stared at her, composed. "Funny," she replied, "because the mangoes back home last longer than some people's intentions." Tonya blinked, clearly not expecting a comeback. Later that evening, Chike found Ada on the terrace. She didn't tell him what was said. She didn't need to. He saw the storm in her eyes. "You don't have to prove anything to them," he said gently. "This world has its claws, but I won't let them scratch you." Ada nodded, but the truth lingered. If she stayed in this world, she'd need her own armor. After weeks in the city, Ada returned to Umuohia. The orchard had bloomed in her absence, thanks to workers she had trained. Children picked fallen mangoes and played in the rows. Her stall now bore a small wooden sign. Ada's Mangoes, sweetness you can trust. Word had spread across the region. Traders arrived weekly. The orchard had become not just her inheritance, but her identity. She walked the land each morning, remembering her mother's laughter, her father's tree, and Chike's hand in the rain. The village welcomed her with new respect. She wasn't just the girl with a city boyfriend. She was Ada, the one who turned fruit into a future. And yet, deep inside, she wondered if her future had room for two worlds, or if she'd always be choosing one over the other. One evening, Ada stood before her father's old shrine, lighting a candle. "Papa," she whispered, "you planted more than a tree. You planted courage." She closed her eyes and felt the wind stir the trees. That same night, Chike arrived unannounced, dusty from the journey, holding a sack of seedlings. "I brought these," he said, "for the gaps in the orchard." They planted in silence, hands in soil, side by side. When they finished, Chike looked at her. "I don't want to build two lives," he said. "I want one life, with you in it." Ada was quiet for a long moment. Then she touched his hand. "Then let's start planting the one we want." And just like that, in the dim glow of a lantern, something deep and sacred took root. But peace, like fruit, is sometimes slow to ripen and quick to spoil. Weeks later, a document arrived from Chike's office, accidentally copied to Ada. It was a proposal. Acquisition of Umuohia farmlands for tech park expansion. Her orchard's name was listed. Ada froze. Had everything been a lie? She confronted Chike in anger. "You said we were building something together, not selling it behind my back." Chike was stunned. "I had no idea," he said, scanning the document. This was an old plan. One my board pushed years ago. I shut it down." Ada didn't believe him, at least not right away. Trust, once cracked, is slow to mend. She stepped away from him that night, not because she stopped caring, but because she needed to know if love could survive the truth, and not just the dream. The days that followed were marked by silence. Chike remained in Lagos, giving Ada space. He met with his legal team, traced the source of the acquisition document, and made calls to have the proposal formally withdrawn. But Ada, though appreciative, wasn't ready to talk. She walked the orchard each morning alone, touching leaves, listening to the land. One evening, she stood under her father's mango tree, the oldest one on the farm. She thought of all the choices she'd made, staying for her mother, trusting a stranger, risking her heart. Then she thought of the orchard, not as a gift from Chike, but as a legacy she had claimed. When Chike returned that night, she finally spoke. "You didn't break my orchard," she said softly. "You broke the trust it stood on. If we rebuild anything, it must be from the ground up." The annual village festival was approaching, and this year, Ada was asked to chair the mango contest, a celebration of the season's best fruit. She agreed, sensing it was time to return to her people, to be seen not as the girl Chike loved, but as Ada, daughter of Ifeoma, keeper of the grove. She organized dancers, storytellers, and young girls to recite poems under the mango trees. On the day of the festival, the village square sparkled with colors. Ada wore a yellow wrapper and carried a woven basket of her best fruit. Chike came too, standing quietly in the crowd, applauding with the rest. When Ada's name was called to give the closing speech, she stepped forward and spoke of roots, of grief, of growth, of mangoes that ripen only when given time. Her words fell like rain on dry hearts. After the festival, Chike asked to speak with Ada in private. They walked by the stream that bordered the orchard, the same place where their story had once begun. "I came to this village to hide," Chike said, "but I found something more terrifying than the life I left behind: honesty. You held up a mirror I couldn't look into until I nearly lost you." He knelt, not with a ring, but with a folded contract. "This is the deed. I'm giving the orchard to you, legally. No strings, no ties. It's yours, always." Ada stared at the papers, then at him. "I never wanted your land, Chike. I wanted your word." He placed a hand on his chest. "Then take that instead. It's the truest thing I own." Forgiveness, Ada realized, is not about forgetting. It's about choosing what to carry forward. And that night, she chose to carry love. She met Chike at the orchard, where the moon bathed the trees in silver. "I forgive you," she said, "but not because you deserve it, because I don't want to live with bitterness." He stepped closer, heart pounding. "And what about love?" he asked. She reached for his hand. "Love that will grow together." They didn't kiss, not yet, but the way their fingers twined said more than words could. In the quiet, beneath rustling leaves, the past was laid to rest, and the future, uncertain, imperfect, but theirs, began to bloom. Word spread quickly. Ada and Chike were building something lasting, not just a relationship, but a community vision. Chike funded a borehole project. Ada opened a small mango research center, helping villagers grow better crops. Young girls were given scholarships. The same people who once whispered behind her back now greeted her with respect. At the church Thanksgiving, the entire village showed up. Old women clapped, children danced, and even the skeptics smiled. As Ada and Chike walked side by side down the aisle, Mama Ifeoma's favorite hymn played. Ada looked upward and whispered, "We're doing it, Mama." The village hadn't just accepted them, it had woven them into its fabric. The story that began at a roadside mango stand was now rooted in every path of Umuohia. With the orchard thriving and the village rallying around their efforts, Ada and Chike began planting something even deeper: hope. They started a mentorship program for local youth, blending agriculture and technology. "We can grow more than mangoes here," Chike told the students gathered under the tree canopy. "We can grow futures." Ada watched the children eagerly scribble notes and handle tablets Chike donated. She saw her younger self in their eyes, curious, eager, and hungry for more than what tradition offered. She smiled. Her heart had grown beyond love for one man. It now embraced a larger purpose. And though the journey had tested her, it had also gifted her a new calling. Her mangoes had become more than fruit. They were a symbol of what was possible. One night, Ada dreamed of her mother sitting beneath the mango tree, peeling fruit with slow, graceful fingers. "You've done well, my Ada," Mama Ifeoma said, smiling. "But don't stop dreaming, because one dream came true." When Ada awoke, her chest felt light, as if the weight she had carried for so long had lifted. Inspired, she began sketching plans for a new venture: a village cooperative where women could process mangoes into juice, jam, and dried snacks for export. "Let's build it right here," she told Chike, "next to the orchard. Let every woman in this village feel what it's like to turn her hands into hope." Chike grinned. "You've become a force, Ada. Your dream is much bigger than mine ever was." She kissed his cheek and replied, "Then let's grow it together." Just as the cooperative broke ground, trouble stirred again. A distant relative of Ada's late father appeared, claiming ancestral rights to part of the orchard land. He filed a complaint with the local council, arguing the land had been wrongfully kept from him. Ada was stunned. She had worked the land, built on it, turned it into something new. But legally, things became murky. The dispute threatened everything. Construction halted. Donors grew nervous. Villagers began murmuring again. Chike wanted to handle it quickly with lawyers, but Ada held back. "This is still my home," she said. "I want to solve it the village way first." She visited the elder's compound, sat with the man, and listened. "Let's talk," she said. "Not as rivals, but as blood." And so the real negotiations began, not in court, but over cola nuts and shared memory. Despite Ada's efforts, the dispute escalated. The council could not resolve it, and the case went to court. For the first time, Ada sat in a courtroom, facing a man who saw her not as kin, but as an obstacle. Chike sat beside her, his presence quiet but reassuring. The judge listened to both sides. Ada presented deeds, receipts, records of investment. The man presented lineage and village records. It was a clash of old and new, heritage versus innovation. The judge delayed ruling, requesting further review. Outside, Ada felt the weight of uncertainty. "What if we lose it all?" she asked Chike. He cupped her face gently. "Then we start again. Because you are the orchard now. Wherever you plant yourself, things grow." Those words stayed with her, like water in dry soil. When the final hearing came, Chike stood to testify, not just as Ada's partner, but as a citizen investing in the land. He spoke not of wealth, but of vision. "This land may belong to many by blood," he said, "but only one person turned it into a legacy. Ada nurtured it when no one else would. That must count for something." The courtroom was silent. Even Ada's accuser looked shaken. The judge called for a recess. Later that week, a ruling came. The land would remain in Ada's care, with a shared agreement allowing her relative a symbolic role in the cooperative. It was a rare balance of tradition and progress, and it was Ada who had made it possible, not with anger, but with resolve. The orchard, once threatened, stood stronger than ever. The day the cooperative officially launched, villagers gathered under the mango trees, drummers playing and women dancing in colorful wrappers. A raised bamboo stage had been built near the stream, and Ada was asked to speak. She stood before her people, no longer the girl by the roadside, but a woman who had weathered storms and planted hope. "I once sold mangoes to buy medicine," she began. "Now we turn mangoes into dreams. This orchard was planted by my father's hands, watered by my mother's prayers, and nurtured by every choice I made, some painful, some brave. But I didn't do it alone. The land taught me, the village shaped me, and love gave me courage." As she ended, the applause rose like thunder. And in the crowd, Chike watched with awe, realizing again that he hadn't just fallen in love with Ada, he had found a partner in every sense. News of Ada's speech and the cooperative spread quickly. She was featured in agricultural journals, invited to speak at a rural development summit, and nominated for a National Women's Leadership Award. But the real victory came quietly, when the same women who once mocked her came to the orchard asking to join the cooperative. Ada welcomed them all. "There's enough sunlight for every tree," she said. Even the elder who once challenged her land rights sent a carved stool as a gift. It was an old gesture of respect, a symbol of shared peace. Ada placed it by the cooperative's entrance, a reminder of how far things had come. That night, she stood beneath the mango trees with Chike, both barefoot, hands intertwined. "We made it," she whispered. "We're still making it," he replied. As the cooperative grew, orders began arriving from across Nigeria and beyond. Bottles of mango juice and jars of Ada's signature mango chili jam were now boxed and shipped weekly. The villagers learned to use computers, print labels, and manage logistics. One day, Ada received a parcel in return. Inside was a mango from Ghana, sent by a woman who had read about her story. Attached was a note. "From one dreamer to another. Your mangoes carry more than taste. They carry light." Ada held the mango close, heart full. She called a meeting the next day and announced a new goal: exporting to West Africa. "If our trees can touch lives across borders," she said, "then let's grow beyond what we ever imagined." The applause was loud, but it was the quiet nods from the elders that meant the most. The village, once skeptical, now stood behind her. One morning, Ada woke to find the orchard in bloom, the trees bursting with fragrant flowers, buzzing with bees, and glowing in the early sun. It felt symbolic. Chike arrived with breakfast in a woven basket. "Let's take a walk," he said. They wandered deep into the orchard, where a small clearing overlooked the stream. There, Chike paused. He reached into the basket and pulled out a small box. "Ada," he said, voice steady but eyes bright, "you taught me what it means to grow. Love, roots, vision. Will you plant forever with me?" He opened the box to reveal a ring made of simple gold, shaped like a tiny mango leaf. Ada laughed through tears. "Yes," she said. "Yes, 1,000 times." The engagement was held in Umuohia, simple but vibrant. Elders gave blessings, masquerades danced, and Ada wore coral beads and a golden wrapper that shimmered in the sun. Chike's parents came too, this time with warm smiles and open hearts. They saw the land, met the people, and finally understood what had drawn their son away from the city. During the ceremony, Ada knelt beside Chike, both of them facing her father's tree. "We start here," she whispered, "with everything we've carried and everything we're still becoming." As drums beat and ululations filled the air, the entire village rose to its feet. For once, it wasn't about wealth or status. It was about legacy, love, and two hearts that chose to grow together. The months that followed were a whirlwind of wedding planning, cooperative expansions, and tender, quiet moments between Ada and Chike. Ada wanted a wedding that honored her roots, and Chike insisted it reflect the strength and simplicity of their love. Together, they planned a two-part celebration, one in Umuohia, under the mango trees, and one in Lagos, for Chike's business and city circles. The wedding day arrived bright and beautiful. Villagers hung streamers between mango trees, and a local band played love songs long into the morning. Ada wore a gown woven from cream and gold aquete fabric, while Chike donned a simple white agbada. The ceremony was held under the oldest mango tree, the one her father had planted. There, before friends, family, and elders, they exchanged vows, not just of love, but of partnership, purpose, and legacy. As they danced beneath the sun, Ada looked around and saw her entire journey reflected in the faces of her community. Every struggle, every seed, every bloom. In Chike's eyes, she saw the future, wide and waiting. As dusk fell, fireflies lit up the orchard, and their first dance became a memory etched into the heart of the village forever. The foundation had been laid, not just for a home, but for a life, planted in truth and watered with love. The celebration continued into the next day with a Lagos reception shimmering with elegance, held on a rooftop garden overlooking the skyline, with fairy lights woven through palm fronds and live high-life music filling the night air. The guests were a colorful fusion of worlds. CEOs and city socialites mingled with mango farmers and village elders, all to celebrate the same love story. Ada stepped into the spotlight in a flowing gown of soft ivory satin with golden Ankara accents stitched into the hem, an echo of the land that raised her. Her coral beads had been replaced with delicate gold, but her essence was unchanged. She moved with grace, hand in hand with Chike, who looked at her like she was still the girl beneath the mango tree. Chike's parents, beaming now, gave toasts filled with humor and humility. "We didn't just gain a daughter," his mother said, raising her glass. "We were taught what it means to belong somewhere and to someone." Laughter flowed. Ada's mango chili jam made an appearance as a dessert glaze to the delight of chefs and aunties alike. Guests received tiny potted mango seedlings wrapped in burlap with tags that read, "Plant something sweet." As the music rose and the night deepened, Ada leaned into Chike's shoulder, her voice soft. "I still feel like the girl by the roadside sometimes." He kissed her forehead. "And look how far the road has taken you." Above them, the stars blinked down like blessings, and somewhere in the distance, mango trees whispered in the wind. Years later, the orchard still bloomed, but now it was more than trees. It was a campus. A small agricultural school stood at the edge of the grove, its walls painted with murals of mangoes, roots, and village women in coral beads. The sign at the entrance read, "The Ifeoma Institute for Rural Girls, founded by Ada Nwosu and Chike Obioma." Children laughed as they picked mangoes during recess. Young women in uniforms walked through the trees carrying notebooks and dreams. A processing center buzzed quietly nearby, bottling mango juice, drying fruit, blending new flavors of jam. Ada sat beneath the same mango tree where it all began, now older, still radiant. Her 3 teenage sons, triplets, sat next to her. "Mama," one of them asked, "were you really the mango queen?" Ada smiled. "No, my sons," she said. "I was just a girl with a basket and a lot of hope." The land had given Ada everything: love, loss, purpose, and finally, legacy. And as the breeze moved through the trees, carrying the scent of ripe fruit and old stories, she smiled and whispered a prayer of thanks. The mangoes had not only grown, they had carried her home. Stories connect us to our past, shape our present, and guide our future. African Legends and Stories is more than just storytelling. It is a bridge between yesterday and tomorrow, between tradition and modernity. Subscribe now and be part of this journey. Like, comment, and share to keep these legends alive. This is African Legends and Stories, where the past speaks and the future listens.